All right, as Matthew McConaughey would say. Happy Thursday, August 14th, 2025. I am Manila Chan. That over there is still not Ted Rall. That's producer Robby, for those who don't know, but you are still tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, because we bring you way too much information. A little TMI on Ted. I guess it's not that much TMI, but he was headed back to New York City. But because you have to go through weird travel routes because there's nothing going direct from Montana to New York City and vice versa, New York City to Montana, Ted is stuck somewhere in Texas because of the big storms that rolled in or were at the time rolling in last night in his travel route. So he might still be stuck in Texas right now, or he might be midair. I don't know. But he survived because I guess the Bears didn't want to eat New Yorkers in skinny jeans.
No, he did definitely survive, gunless, which is still amazing to me.
That's impressive. That is really impressive. So we'll ask Ted about his travels, what he saw, and his takeaways. A New York City, a city boy put in a small town in Montana, and see what his thoughts were. Because we've heard Robby, but Robby lives there. He's been there for, like 15, 16 years, something like that.
It'll be 15 years in October.
Wow. So he's a local. So we'll see what an outsider's perspective was after Ted returns. We presume tomorrow, unless he gets caught in like a tornado or something. So we'll see for a fun Friday. All right. So we're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please, guys, be sure to hit the like and the follow button, the subscribe button, as it were, on YouTube. And we can't thank you enough for the YouTube folks helping us out and getting us to over the hump to hit that metric to be officially monetized there. We appreciate you very much. And of course, our Rumble room is where all the hot conversation happens. Shout out to our regulars in there, the nerd and Ray. Good morning, guys. So on today's show, we're actually going to be talking about just a couple of topics because we got to keep it short. We went way over yesterday, and Robby has a real job. But we'll touch first on the U.S.
You saw what happened with YouTube yesterday's YouTube episode, didn't you?
What do you mean?
It's not advertiser friendly, so it's been restricted to YouTube Red Avenue revenue because we got a little bit. So I don't know if we got too spicy talking about me kind of mixing it up with that dumb feminist, or if they just didn't like the Ghislaine Maxwell conversation.
Oh,
so if you really want to support the TMI show, come to Rumble.
Yeah, that's true.
Also you get that's where you get your spiciest content.
Yes,
because I really can't. I have. We can be really spicy, but we can't be that spicy on YouTube. So if you really want to see unfiltered TMI, come to Rumble.
That is very true. I didn't see that we were restricted. Yeah, it could have been. It could have been all the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking talk. It could have been.
But she didn't traffic anybody. I mean, that's fake news.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It could have been, Robby. I'm inclined to think it was because we were talking about feminism and all of that stuff, and you were talking about being against DEI.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, I think that's a lot of it has to do with that, because we know Alphabet is very big on the DEI stuff. And so if you are not a proponent of that, Alphabet is the parent company of Google, which is the parent company of YouTube, and they don't like that.
So you're saying that diversity is you're saying that diversity is your strength until it's not.
Diversity is very encouraged on YouTube.
But not diversity of thought.
No.
So then you don't have diversity.
No, it's diversity in appearance only, Robby. You know that. You know that. You know that's how this works.
I know nothing. I'm a dumb redneck.
I really thought by now, because all the tech bigwigs, when Trump was inaugurated, they were all there and they were all kissing the ring. So I really thought by now they would have taken some action to appease Donald Trump and play nice with the administration and get rid of And maybe they have gotten rid of the DEI stuff in terms of hiring or whatever, but they certainly haven't gotten rid of the algorithms on YouTube. So you will definitely get auto censored based on the algorithms and what it thinks you're talking about. And then, of course, there's no human you can talk to. So Robbie's right. If you want to see the spicy content, you want to hear us uncensored, you have to go over to Rumble. Like you have to.
If you want to help us get paid, because Rumble pays, like, last thing I'm going to say, because I know we got to be short today. For every quarter that YouTube pays us, Rumble pays us $1.50. So if you really want, yeah, that's how it works. So if you really want to support the TMI show, if you want to support the TMI show, jump over to Rumble and watch our videos there, because Manila has no job. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have a job. So,
Ted doesn't have a job either. So,
so if y'all come over and show some love on Rumble, we'd appreciate it. Okay, that's in the plug.
That's right. Now, speaking of money, that's going to be the first topic, because the U.S. national debt, the debt clock that they have in New York City and the little debt thing that Thomas Massey wears on his lapel, we have just surpassed $37 trillion. I don't even know how many zeros that is. Like I cannot wrap my brain around that debt. So we'll get into some of the nitty gritty on that. Then we'll head over to our fun chat topic of the day. I'm calling it Thirsty Thursday because there's a new Gallup poll that came out that says Americans en masse are ditching booze. Like this is the lowest approval rating, if you will, for alcohol. And a lot of it, Robbie, has to do with Gen Z, which, like I said, they give me a lot of hope, these kids. The youngest of them. The older ones, kind of blend with millennials a little bit.
So what generation is Courtney and Thomas?
Yes, they're Gen Z. They're the younger of the Gen Zs.
My son's definitely more conservative than I am, which is impressive, because I'm pretty far to the right.
That's pretty shocking. But yeah, they are the youngest. They're the younger last group of the Gen Zs. And then my son is part of Gen Alpha. But it seems that the youngest, like the ones that are smack center Gen Z right now, are old enough to drink, and they are not into alcohol, because only 54% of Americans, adult Americans, say they drink alcohol. That's the lowest ever. So I'm giving that one away, but we'll talk about what you think is driving that socially in the US. And I don't know, the conversation might surprise you. And we'll talk, last but not least, about some of apparently the worst US cities for stress level. And these are obviously, you might think like, oh, New Yorkers are really stressed out, or some other major metropolitan city like DC is really stressed out. But the way Wallet Hub did this survey, it was based on various indicators from like overall health, economics, all that stuff, and then a few other markers, which we'll get into later in the show before we say goodbye. But you might actually be surprised. I cannot believe several Midwestern cities are on this worst cities list for high stress. And how they measure it might also surprise you. But these are things I didn't know, Robbie. I would have thought DC was like the highest stress level because, it's DC.
Well, no, I mean, you have support. I mean, y'all actually have a working infrastructure after a faction, and you have roads and you have bridges, and you have homeless people. But if you go to small towns where there's no jobs and people are barely scraping by, so then what you turn to drugs, booze, because you're depressed.
Or in Ohio, eating cats, right?
Yeah. Well, you can deport the Haitians. I mean, that's a problem. That's a self-correcting problem.
So we'll get into that before we say goodbye. So, all right, let's hit the jaws and get to the news. All right. Well, that picture shouldn't be there. This picture should be there because he is the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
What the hell is wrong with his neck?
He's just doing one of these. That's a bad picture. I think he's actually, I don't know what his age is. I think he's somewhere in his early to mid 60s. I think he actually looks pretty good. So, Scott Bessent. So
Looks
here's the
looks
thing.
like a penis.
No, he doesn't. I think he actually looks pretty good. So here's the deal. Here's what's going on with US debt. So the United States national debt has passed $37 trillion, according to the Treasury Department. They announced this on August 12th. There's the debt clock. Obviously, it hasn't been updated to match this story. But the news came out with the Treasury's latest report of the nation's daily finances, showing 37 trillion $4,818,000,000 of total outstanding public debt, divided into roughly 29.6 trillion in debt held by the public and roughly 7.4 trillion in intragovernmental holdings. This new number, a record high, sits short of the current 41.1 trillion debt limit that they just set on the 4th of July. So we keep raising the debt ceiling. You guys know that. However, that number appeared to have been reached sooner than pre-pandemic projections had predicted, with the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office's January 2020 projections forecasting the gross debt to surpass 37 trillion after fiscal year 2030. So Robby, from the Biden era CBO, they thought we'd hit 37 trillion after 2030. We're 5 years ahead of that. So that's terrifying. So the more rapid increase appeared to be due to the federal government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which featured the shutdown of much of the national economy, requiring the federal government under Donald Trump, and then changing hands to Joe Biden to borrow more money to stabilize and ensure a recovery. The United States debt climbed to $2 trillion just in the last year of Biden's presidency alone, hitting the 34 trillion mark as of January 2024, then 35 trillion in July of 24, and then 36 trillion in November of 24. So it steadily just ballooned under Biden's last year. Quote, we are now adding $1 trillion more to the national debt every 5 months. Michael Peterson, chair and CEO of the Peter G. Peterson, what a horrible name, Peter G. Peterson Foundation, saying in a statement, quote, that's more than twice as fast as the average rate over the last 25 years. Congress's Joint Economic Committee estimated on August 8th that the average daily rate of growth, an increase of another $1 trillion to the debt, would be reached in approximately 173 days. Now, under the second Trump administration, the Congressional Budget Office estimated that the tax cuts and spending included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act will increase the deficit by $3.4 trillion over the next decade, resulting in an increase of debt over that time by 4.1 trillion. While the bill looks to decrease spending by 1.1 trillion, it will also decrease revenue by 4.5 trillion. However, the administration said the tax cuts and its other policies are expected to boost the US economy and expand the tax base, which would grow tax revenue. Tariffs, meanwhile, have been expected to contribute to revenue, producing a budget surplus of $27 billion in June. And that's all according to this guy, the Treasury Secretary, and his Treasury Department. So, Robby, I know you got a lot to say about the consistently ballooning debt, Treasury printing more money, which is kind of it's meaningless. We're going to turn into Zimbabwe, where a loaf of bread costs $1 million, right? Because it means nothing. Like this is exactly what Thomas Massey, why he wears that little ticking debt clock on his suit jackets every day, because this is outrageous. I feel like we're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Peter would be our children, the young Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas. This is going to be a busted like Rhodesia situation for America in the next 20 years. If we're expected, I mean, just from the article I just read, I mean, Robby, what on earth? We're growing at double the clip in 100, what did they say? 107, where did I read that? 173 days, our daily average growth is going to increase another trillion in 173 days. So by next summer.
Yeah, well, people, they need to realize something. President Trump in his first term in 4 years outspent Obama in 8 years. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's how you bankrupt casinos, which, by the way, Trump did. And
Is that what he did with his Taj Mahal? What was it called?
yeah, the Taj Mahal. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what
That was
happened.
it.
He just straight up, I mean, he just wrecked it. And he's going to just take that to the next level. See, here's the issue. I'm not an economist. I'm not a banker. I don't pretend to be one. Okay. I'm just some schmuck. I just happens to read a lot. Okay. Inflation is not rising prices. Inflation is a symptom of rising prices. So whenever the talking heads say, "Oh well, inflation only went up by 2%," or "Inflation only went up by 0.9%," that's not inflation. A good way to kind of think about it is, say if you get a balloon, if you if you give your son a balloon, right? When he blows air into it, what does that balloon do?
It increases,
Yeah,
obviously, in size.
yeah, it inflates. Can you inflate a price tag? The answer
In
is
the
no.
physical sense, no.
No, you can't. But you can inflate the money supply. So if you go
Yeah.
back and if you look at the traditional definition of inflation, which is the same for 2,000 years, inflation has to
Wait,
do with
what?
it's a real thing. Inflation is
In
the increase
2,000
of supply.
years?
Yeah, that's for example. No, one of the reasons why the Roman Empire fell is because they started creating more money, more denarii. They maybe debased their currency. And it got
Huh.
so bad to the point where the Roman government would no longer accept their own new coins because they were so
Right.
debased. That's
Right.
what we're doing here. So, go away, kind of think you're a homeowner. If you look at the price of your house over the last 5 years, it looks like the price of the house has gone up, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't. Your house hasn't increased in value at all. The purchasing power of every dollar has decreased.
That's right.
That's why the house is worth more. It's not worth anything more. And so what
It's
Trump
only
is
on
talking about
paper.
here, yeah, of course. And so it looks so if you're an oligarch, that's a good thing because you have access to those investments early on. The problem is it shafts everybody else. That's why sand is cheap. There's a lot of it. And so no, this is pure economic suicide. One of the reasons why I despise Trump, why I oppose Trump, is because of what he is doing. It's unsustainable. He is wrecking the country.
So I obviously math is not my forte. So I had to ask ChatGPT about it, and I gave it this article. I gave it some prompts to assess everything, and so excuse me, ChatGPT's trend analysis tells me the U.S. debt is accelerating at an unprecedented pace, currently increasing by roughly $1 trillion every 5 months, more than double the historical average. Pre-pandemic forecasts had us crossing the 37 trillion mark after fiscal year 2030, but we hit that in 2025 instead. Major drivers include pandemic-era spending, recent tax cuts that reduce revenue, new spending programs under the big, beautiful bill. While tariffs are providing modest surpluses in isolated months, they are nowhere near offsetting the structural deficit. Q4 2028 prediction, because I told it to tell me that because it's an election year. So it tells me for Q4, if the current trajectory continues, assuming no major policy reversals, debt could exceed between 44 to 45 trillion by late 2021. That's based on 1 trillion added every 5 months. So that comes out to 2.4 trillion per year. Starting point of 37 trillion right now in mid 2025, compounding interest costs that will grow faster as rates remain elevated or only slightly fall. By 2028, debt service alone could be one of the largest line items in the federal budget, crowding out other spending priorities. The scenario risks these things: higher interest rates to attract buyers for US debt, increased inflationary pressure if deficits are financed through monetary expansion, and reduced fiscal flexibility in emergencies. So, in plain English, for families, what this means: think of the US like a household with a giant credit card balance that keeps growing faster than income. By 2028, the interest payments alone could eat up much of that budget, leaving less for roads, schools, Medicare, or disaster aid. This means higher borrowing costs, mortgage, car loans, credit card rates could stay elevated because the government is competing with you for loan money. Persistent inflation, groceries, utilities, and everyday items may keep creeping up in price. Weaker safety nets, less funding for public programs, making it harder to get help if there's a crisis. Higher taxes in the future. To slow the debt, future administrations may need to raise taxes, which can hit both middle class families and small businesses. Bottom line, without a sharp change in spending and revenue policy, by Q4 2028, American households may face a triple pinch: higher costs to borrow, higher prices to live on, and fewer public services. So that's a triple whammy by the end of 2028, which will be the election year.
It'll be sooner than that. I mean,
We're stuck.
So think about this. I've thought about this a lot. Let's take Israel for an example. Okay, so we give Israel $4 billion a year in aid. That's not kind of military aid that they're getting. Okay, so like for example, whenever we replenish their stocks because they're using up so much stuff to kill Palestinian children and innocent people, we are creating money out of thin air at worst, or at best borrowing it from China, using bonds. Okay. So we are borrowing money we do not have to give to Israel or to give to Ukraine to then purchase those weapons using money that we had to borrow in the first place, and we're paying interest on that money. So think about that for a second. It'd be like Manila. If I took a mortgage out, I don't know how. So let's just say I did it. If I took out a second mortgage on my house, and I gave that mortgage to you, and I'm paying 7% interest, I then give you that money, and then you pay me back using the money that I borrowed to give you in the first place with no interest. Who's coming out ahead, me or you?
Me.
Of course. That's what we're doing. It is insane. Nothing about this makes sense. And Donald Trump spends like a drunken sailor. He has never met a debt. He's never met a line of credit he does not like. Yeah. And he's mortgaging our kids to fund his BS projects right now. His feel good is like his new Trump Plaza in Gaza that he wants to build after he ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians. We will be paying for that, not Israel, using debt or worse, inflation. They just print the money, which then at that point, it just decreases the purchasing power of every dollar that's in circulation. So what's the point? When the rest of the world wakes up, so this is the threat with BRICS. When the rest of the world realizes that we're writing hot checks that they're covering, when they realize that we are using their products that they make using their time, giving them money that's worth less than the sand on a beach, when they figure that out, the United States is going to implode. And then all bets are off.
So yeah, this is how American families watching the show, or like individual Americans, no one usually pays attention to the deficit clock, right? But this is how it actually hits home and impacts you, because we've hit that tipping point where it's unavoidable for every American. But on a side note, I just want to give a shout out to our regular rumblers over there. Ray gifting a subscription to the show to Scary Girl.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Ray's one of the fortunate viewers of ours that was able to find a job, unlike me and Ted. So thank you, Ray. God bless you. Thank you for that.
No, that's awesome.
That's and because Ray and Scary have been longtime viewers and listeners, I should say, back from the Radio Sputnik days. So I love Robby that we created like a little community there on Rumble where people actually look out for each other, and because that's the only hope we have in this country, Robby, is if we as people look out for each other, because obviously Washington is not going to do that. As
No,
our
they hate
public
us.
safety nets, the public safety net is obviously collapsing under this debt trap, because it's not even just the debt alone. As this article pointed out, we're gonna be paying only interest. Think of it like a credit card. You will never pay off your credit card if you only pay the interest amount that you like, the base minimum that they send you every month. You'll never pay it off
But
because
here's
interest rates for credit cards are like 22%. You're
but
just
here's
never
the
going to pay it off.
but here's the difference. A country can do what you and me cannot do. A nation can print its own money.
Right.
So a country can never go bankrupt in that sense. However, whenever you do that, what you do is that you debase your currency. The more of something that you have, the less value it has. And this is a provable fact. No, this is not a conspiracy theorist. Pull up a picture and magazines are great for this. Pull up a picture of Time magazine from 20 years ago, from today's date. Okay.
Okay.
Look at the cover price. Then look at the cover price of Time magazine for today, for this month. It's more than doubled in price. The magazine has gotten smaller. The cost has gone
thinner.
more. Also look at the price of food, the price of gas. What's happening? There's no new value being created. It's that the value of every dollar that's in your bank account is going down. It's going less. That's the issue. That's the problem. So whenever people say, no, inflation's rising prices, that's not the case. The piper has got to be paid one way or the other.
Yeah.
Nothing is free. And so all these wars that we fight, all these social programs that we have, the empire that we have around the globe, that has to be paid for something. Governments create nothing by nature. They are parasitic. They make nothing. Okay. So, well, it's true. I mean, what does Washington D.C. produce? What good or service does it make that it sells? Governments take wealth. Governments take wealth. That's what they do. That's the contract. You provide a service using our tax dollars.
We're tax bills. No, I get it. Yeah. I get it. I mean, we're not
and it's completely insane.
Our money being returned to us in any real meaningful way. I read somewhere when I was reading up on this stuff that the US economy now is 70% based on consumer buying. Yep. Oh, I know what it was. One of the indicators of how our economy is doing, a weird thing. Because I read weird things, Robby, you know this. One of the economic indicators is the producers of cardboard boxes of like packaging for your TV, right? It comes in a big corrugated cardboard box, sure, printed or whatever, and other literal big box manufacturers, like literal boxes across the US, basically all, and there's not that many of them, but all of them said they reported like a 4.5% to 5% decrease in production orders. So that's a bad sign, because what it means is it's showing, it's not an official way to look at it, but it's a good tangible way for the average person to understand that consumer confidence is actually starting to go down because they're not buying as much. So the box producers are producing about 5% less than they were last year. Sure. And another economic indicator I read was actually in the markets, the grocery stores. And we were talking about this yesterday. Is that grocery stores tend to be able to predict where the market is swinging, like the actual stock markets and things like that. and consumer confidence based on how much frozen pizza gets sold.
Sure.
Because in good times, their reasoning goes like this. In good times, Americans order out and like go eat at a restaurant or go order a pizza. In hard times, Americans hunker down and buy that $5 DiGiorno.
Right.
And
That's
they
what
are
we do.
yeah, I mean, I don't order pizza. I just throw it in the oven at home. But the indicator that I saw recently for Q2 was that the take and bake at home pizzas from the frozen aisle are on the rise. So if you compare the frozen pizzas theory plus the big box manufacturer theory, we're headed somewhere bad. And now that we have the actual debt numbers coming in, this is not looking good for the average American, especially since 70% of our economy is apparently consumer based and we're not producing anything. Just like you said, we're no longer producing.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, look at the rate of homelessness over the last 4 years is going up or down. It's going up. It doubles every year. Well, why is that? Because you can't afford to live here. That's the problem. And another good indicator. And a quick shout out to Alpine Lake for the $10 donation over on Rumble. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you look at stocks, if you look at recession resistant stocks, storage units are a great place to look, because if someone doesn't
We
pay
can't get
off
rid of our junk.
well, the people like in my situation, I was living in a house till 2 months till a month and a half ago. Okay,
Right.
I'm now living in an apartment made out of a shipping container because rent went up by $600. Well, I
Wow.
sold all my stuff because I'm not gonna rent a storage unit. But a lot of people
No,
don't
of
want to
course
hang
not.
on to their stuff, and so what do? They rent storage units. Storage units boom in bad times because people want to hang on to their stuff.
In bad times.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and so stocks for companies that are in the storage unit business, those stocks are going up because as the economy goes down, as people have to downsize, as people are getting priced out, like what happened to me, they rent storage units. And storage units are really good because if you don't pay the bill, they just auction the stuff off. There's no eviction process. And so they're just able to flip those units faster, right? And so no, we are heading for some incredibly bad times. And I think that most Americans can sense what's happening, but they can't explain it, they can't articulate it. And if you think that Washington, D.C. is going to save you, Washington, D.C. is who's fucking you.
Ain't that the truth? All right. For Alpine Lake has a question for us, Robby. Any chance President Putin can convince President Trump to join BRICS? He already wants to ditch NATO. I've got an answer for you, Alpine Lake. That answer is a hard no. And I'll tell you why. Because BRICS is an economic alliance, not a Warhawk alliance like NATO is. NATO says they are a defensive alliance. BRICS says they're an economic alliance. Now, the caveat is the people, or the countries rather, that are in BRICS individually, they happen to be members of BRICS and whatever other alphabet letters they've added to it from the other countries. Now, many of those countries independently might have joint security agreements, like the CSTO and stuff like that. Those, like Russia and China and Iran, and they have security deals, but that is completely independent from the BRICS group itself. NATO specifically says that they're a defensive alliance, meaning, the Three Musketeers rule, right? Like one for all for one, or whatever. They literally mean we're going to get in a gang fight if something happens to one of the homies. So that's the difference. But secondly, Trump, I think personally might, not as President Trump, but Donald Trump, the person, if he were just a businessman, I think he would have interest in somehow investing in BRICS. But I don't think there's any possible way a President Trump would take the US to join BRICS, because we are way too entrenched as a company. The establishment establishment DC is way, way, way too entrenched with the G7 and obsessed with world hegemony, where the Cold War era, mid-century, 20th century ideology is that this is the world order. The United States is top dog, and the BRICS charter is specifically outlined to where the whole intent is that it's a win-win for everybody, and
Well,
the
there's that, and
G7
also
is not.
there's also that, also the fact that the United States is sanctioning more than half of the BRICS nations. So,
That's right.
what's the incentive?
There's that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Washington's too entrenched with, like, the G7 is more comparable to BRICS, whereas NATO would be, I don't know, comparable to, you can name any other smaller defensive alliance.
Well, I mean, Trump could kill BRICS today. All you have to do is just lift all the sanctions. Okay, we're not going to weaponize the dollar anymore.
Right.
If he does that, BRICS vanishes. The whole reason why BRICS exists in the first place is so that way you can bypass the SWIFT system and the sanctions won't strangle you. That's why Russia is able to survive, whereas Venezuela cannot. So
That's right.
No, there's that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I hope that answered your question, Alpine Lake. Thank you very much for that question and the donation. All right, let's move along to the Thirsty Thursday conversation, Robby. I think this is something that'll shock people. So apparently, only 54% of U.S. adults say they drink alcohol, the lowest rate Gallup has recorded since they began tracking back in 1939. The 2025 poll released yesterday found a record high 53% of Americans view drinking as harmful to your health. The drinking rate hovered in the low to mid 60s from 1997 to 2023 before falling to 58% in 2024. Analysts attribute the ongoing decline largely to adults age 18 to 34. So most of that is like the younger millennials and the eldest of the Gen Zers, whose drinking rate has dropped by 9% over the last 2 years. 2/3 of this group say even moderate drinking, 1 or 2 drinks a day, is harmful, up from 34% in 2018. Concerns among older adults have also increased, though less sharply. So meaning the older folks, like Gen Xers, like me and Robby and Ted, we don't view it as harshly. Although I personally fall closer to how the Gen Zers view this. The trend follows growing research about alcohol's health impacts. In January, the U.S. Surgeon General called for warning labels on alcoholic beverages over cancer risks. Federal guidelines currently recommend that men limit their daily intake to 2 drinks and women to 1. So I'll just go first and say, Robby, in early 2018, when I found out I was preggo, I had to obviously drop cigarettes. And then obviously you shouldn't drink.
No.
You shouldn't drink when you're pregnant. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a thing. So I stopped drinking. And then I, after, so we're talking like 10 months, and then I'm nursing. So let's just give it a full solid year and a half that I didn't touch alcohol because, alcohol passes through the mother's breast milk. So a solid year and a half, I didn't touch any alcohol. And while I'm not against it in moderation, like anything else, I'm not against anything in moderation, really. Like, if you can handle it, have a little bit, like, don't deprive yourself. But I kind of have a distaste for alcohol now. I think because I was forced into not being able to drink, and now I don't really care for it. And the more research I've done about blue zones and, for example, like the Japanese, or not specifically Japan broadly, because Japan has a drinking problem, but the Okinawans and their sort of diet, and it doesn't include alcohol. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go dry. I mean, I might have a drink 1, 2, 3 times a year at this point, because my son is 6 now. Of course I can drink. I don't really care to. I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's a I don't want to pay $15 for a cocktail thing.
It's that.
Um,
I
it's that
guarantee
too,
it. I guarantee
but
it's
it's
that.
bad for your health, and I don't like how it makes you feel. Obviously, I don't like. I mean, maybe it was fun when you were 22, but I think a part of the deterrent for the young people is if you're in a big city like New York City, which we're looking at here, some guy walking through the bar scene in New York City. I mean, obviously, young people go out there to socialize, they drink or whatever, but maybe they're not drinking. They're not
I don't know.
drinking because it's like $15, $17 a cocktail.
Well,
So,
we have a viewer question for you, Manila. Frazomat's over on Rumble. He's wanting to know if Sputnik came back, if you go back to work for him.
I don't know. I think it depends. Um, it depends on the hours. I mean, obviously, I'm a mom first and foremost, and I enjoyed working for Sputnik. And I love the team. I love obviously all the people there. But it just the reason I had left and I couldn't commit to longer to begin with was only because my son was starting school, and that was first and foremost. So I would definitely entertain the idea. Because I miss more than anything, I miss my coworkers at Sputnik and RT more than anything. And of course, having a steady income is nice, but but I would always pick family time first before favoring my work family and income, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And kind of getting back to our to our topic here, I think that with the Gen X people, the younger people, I think there's a couple of different.
Oh wait, Gen X, we're Gen X.
Well, whatever my kid's generation is, I don't know.
Gen Z, Z,
Whatever. Listen, I'm
zero.
retarded. No, I'm a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome. So let's just go with there. They have so much debt. I mean, just growing up. I mean, I just don't even see how they can afford things. No. Right now, my daughter, she's looking at schools, and so is my son. Yeah, she's a senior. He's going to be a sophomore.
She's a senior already.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's a senior, and so she's looking. She's looking at schools, and she's getting all these offers for student loans and things. And she
Yeah.
wants to work in journalism or be a sports manager. If she goes through and does a 2-year degree at a community college, not even a major university, she's looking at about $50,000 to $60,000 in debt before her
What?
life even gets started. Yes,
Wait, for a
and
community college?
yes,
Because I originally went to a university. I got kicked out because I was partying on frat row, and then I had to make up for it by going to a community college for the 2 years, which I'm grateful I did because I'm virtually all paid off in my student loans to this day. But
and
I'm
how many
glad I
years?
actually went that route.
And how many years
But
has
I'm
that
like
taken?
100 years old. I'm a
Yeah,
100 years old.
yeah, but I mean that's my point, right? I mean, so no, the next generation, they are the first generation in American history that's starting off worse than the generation that preceded them.
Right.
So think
Which
about
is our
that.
generation.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's horrible. I mean, the baby boomers screwed everybody,
Oh,
and our
they
gen,
for sure.
no, and our generation is not exactly doing our kids a favor either. Okay, and
No, of course.
so one of the reasons why the bar scene is drying up, if you're getting a job, say working as a barista, if you're making $15, $16 an hour, and then you get taxed on it, and you get taxed on it again because you have federal taxes and state taxes. You have
Yeah.
sales taxes depending where you are. Then you got to pay for rent. Where the hell are you going to get money to just go piss away to kill brain cells?
Right. Well, part of this, I just want to point out, it's not only the price, I imagine, of why younger, like Gen Zers, are opting away from this. The article specifically says that they are worried about health concerns
Sure.
because of the new studies showing cancer. Now, I'm a little conflicted on this only because like Mediterranean diets, like in Greece and in Italy, those people are also in blue zones, and they live to be, well into being octogenarians. I mean, they make Joe Biden look like a young man. And those cultures do include alcohol, but the caveat there is that they enjoy like a glass of wine with dinner. They're not boozing like Americans do. So the way the American relationship with alcohol is very different than those people in Mediterranean cultures, because in Mediterranean cultures, I mean, they let little kids sip alcohol, right? Like sip. I mean, small children aren't getting drunk. I'm not saying that, but it's not taboo for kids to have a glass of wine, even when they're like in high school. It's not taboo. It's part of the culture. Um, Whereas in the US, like kids at high school parties are beer bonging and doing, all of this stuff. And because it's considered, alcohol is taboo, right? And of course, if something's taboo, young people want to have at it. So that's another thing, is our American relationships with alcohol. I think it's a bad relationship.
Well, it's a
Um,
poison. It's a
well,
poison. I mean, call it what it is. It
the
is a
way
poison.
we drink it, yes. The way we in America drink it, yes.
So, I mean, the alcohol, just like cigarettes, if you use as prescribed, will kill you. So, I mean, just think about that. And here in the United States,
That's not wrong.
no, we don't have universal health care. So if you get sick, you're screwed. And one thing I also want to point out is that the newest generation, more and more of them are turning to religion. Like they are
Yeah,
rebelling
I saw that.
against the current trend. And so if you're a Baptist like what I am, you don't drink. The Bible says, don't get drunk. The Bible doesn't say don't
But
drink,
I
but it does
thought
say don't get
Jesus
drunk.
turned water to wine.
Well. So in the Bible, so you have wine and you have what's called new wine. You know what the difference is?
No.
New wine is juice that hasn't been fermented. It's grape
Juice
juice.
that hasn't
Wine,
been fermented. Okay.
wine is fermented grape juice is what it is. So when Jesus turned that water into wine, it was new wine.
Oh, I see. So it's
So
grape
you see
juice.
what I mean? Yeah. So
So Stoop Dog over in the Rumble chat says, I've been doing mocktails since the early 80s. That's another rise. You know what a weird thing, Robby? Like, so it's weird to me only because I was once upon a time a Hollywood, party girl. It's hard for me to imagine looking at my 20s and looking back now. I'm like, how did I survive? But at any rate, can you believe what the kids are doing now? And I subscribe to all these weird emailers, right? They are doing stuff on Eventbrite now that are doing like early morning raves before work or before school. And they are these early morning raves to get your energy pumped or whatever. And even I'll get to the evening ones after, but the early morning raves, like at dawn, and then you go to work. It's like dance parties, but they're drinking like smoothies and stuff. Like this is how the younger generation, the Gen Zs, are actually partying now, which I find it weird, but I also think it's really cool in that they are taking health first. And then as far as like the evening ones go, they're not even raves anymore. Now the young people, the older Gen Zs that are in college right now, they are now going to, like, instead of like a happy hour, right? They are going to these these chill out arranged lounge sessions where again, people are doing healthy things like drinking mocktails, which are basically like smoothies. And some of them have like healthy, whatever ingredients like ginseng or whatever. And that's what Gen Z is doing as compared to what boomers did and Gen Xers, especially us Gen Xers. Our generation really loved doing the bar scene. But the kids that are young enough to be our kids, they're doing the opposite of what Gen X has done, which I think is kind of amazing.
yeah, no, in person, I love to see it. I mean,
I love it.
I don't drink. Even before I became religious, I didn't drink. I mean, Manila, I'm going to let kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. My daddy was a raging alcoholic when I was growing up. He was a mean man, and so I never drunk because I was always afraid I was just going to like it too much. And so
Yeah.
I did not want to be my dad. And so no, whenever my kids were growing up, I would tell them the stories. Hey, do not do this. And alcoholism is prevalent on my side of the family and also my wife's. And so,
Oh,
so the two kids,
yeah. They do
I
say it's a
mean,
disease. They call alcoholism a disease.
well, why is there a fentanyl crisis? Because people are just are so hopeless. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
a lot of ways, and
No, I
I
do. I
think,
do. I think to Steven's point, I think he's trying to say that like maybe people are ditching alcohol
yeah, going to drugs.
to trade to something else. So that might be true also. But as far as this study goes, it's only based on alcohol. I'm actually seeing a different trend. It's just that the Gen Zers are more aware and they're more into health trends. If you look at what they're looking at on TikTok and stuff, you see all these crazy people, these influencers on TikTok that are getting up like at 4 a.m. to do a health routine, right? Like you've seen all that buzz,
Sure,
right, Robby? These
sure.
crazy influencers that have like 2-3 hour early morning routines, like with their crazy jogging and heart monitors and all this crazy gadgets. The younger people, the Gen Zers, they're actually way more into health than any other generation before them. And I think that's kind of amazing because um as we know, Americans tend to be the fattest people on earth. But
Well, so
Robbie, we're not the most alky either. Look what
well,
I got.
well, the thing is, our food is poison. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Americans are so fat is because we
Yeah.
eat the most processed food on the planet. So, I mean, that's a big part
Yeah.
of it. But I mean, to your point, I think it's a few things. One, the generation that's coming up now, most of them know someone has died from a drug overdose,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they know someone
That's true.
who's died from suicide. So, I mean, they are seeing the reality
Yeah.
of this toxic culture that we're living in. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they're growing up in it, they're seeing it. So they see that, and also they're being pressed. Also, they're now facing the economic realities that their lives are already. They've already got two strikes against them coming out of the gate, and so I think that more and more they're starting to realize I got to have a sound mind and a sound body, or I'm not going to survive. And so, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are turning to religion. No, the fastest growing religion right now in the United States is orthodoxy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
church
I've
that's
read
over
that.
2,000 years old. People are looking for stability. They're looking for stability because there's nothing stable in our system, and there sure as hell isn't anything stable by getting yourself stoned or drunk or just wrecking your entire future because you're
Yeah.
making bad decisions.
I
So
just
I'm
love
glad to
the
see it.
news I'm happy to see that the young adults are not behaving the way I was behaving when I was 21.
Sure.
So I'm thrilled to see it. And maybe it's I'm an old lady in my mid 40s now,
So I have a
but I
question
think
for you.
it's a wonderful thing.
So, no, I'm gonna ask you a question, kind of throwing back to our old conversation about, when me and you kind of got into it about Vivek Ramaswamy and he was trashing American culture, and you brought up how you were raised by Fabi-ass Asian parents.
Yes.
I believe is your quote. So how do you square? So how do you square this? They're strict. They're trying to instill you with these traditional values, and then you go out and just get shit faced. How much did the Fabi-ass Asian parent actually matter at the end of the day?
Well, that's kids. All kids rebel. It doesn't matter who their parents are. Kids rebel. The vast majority of them. So I don't think that's even like relevant. I think it's just being in America, most kids will have a rebellious stage. But
So
that said,
was it the social pressure of the kids that you were around?
of course, I grew up in LA, of course. But the at the end of the day, the core values that I was instilled with never put me too I never went too far over the edge. Whereas I've seen people obviously have developed dependencies, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or whatever, or engaging in other really, really risky behavior. I mean, I might have partied, but I was always like the mother hen relative to everybody else getting shit faced. But even still, I had my time, and I'm happy to see that the 21-year-olds now are going in a healthy way. And I think that's wonderful. However, before we move on to our last topic, Robbie, I, I asked Google, you can see here on the screen, I said, which Western country drinks the most alcohol per capita? And Google says, in terms of Western countries, Germany and Latvia are often cited as consuming the most alcohol per capita. Other countries like Czech Republic, Austria, and Ireland also rank high in alcohol consumption. It's worth noting that European countries in general tend to have higher rates of alcohol consumption compared to other regions. So then it breaks it all down, or whatever. I go into Statista and look at what they're showing. There's Latvia at the top. This is the number of liters of alcohol consumed per capita in selected European countries based on 2022 numbers. Latvia is 11.9. I don't know. Is it millions of liters? I don't know. But it ranked the highest. Spain came in at 11.8. So it was Latvia, Spain, Austria, Czechia, which we know is, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Lithuania, France, somewhere in the middle, Hungary, Ireland. Ireland is down towards the bottom. So despite, the old trope about, Irish drunks, the Irish are actually less drunk than the Latvians.
Well, that's because of immigration. I mean, they've imported hundreds of thousands of migrants to the Middle East who are Muslim.
In
So, I mean,
Ireland?
yeah, look it up.
Oh, I
Dublin
thought
is
it was
a,
only England.
Doubling
Oh.
isn't as no.
Well, UK's down there. UK's
I mean,
down here, right above Denmark. Denmark came in last, but
yeah, that's
UK,
my point. Now, if you import hundreds of thousands of Muslims, if you're just counting, between everybody at large as opposed to the native population, of course the numbers are going to go down because you're importing a population that doesn't drink.
that doesn't drink. Yeah, that makes sense. But Latvia is a more closed off country, and
Yeah.
it's more native Latvians, obviously, than anybody else overwhelmingly, and they really like to drink.
Yeah, but they're
How
European.
about that?
I mean, Europe's like Montana, right? I mean, it gets cold, it's dreary. What are you going to do whenever the weather sucks? You're going to get trashed,
I
unless
guess so.
unless you're running
Yeah.
a gaming channel like yours truly is.
That probably has something to do with it, I'm sure. All right, last topic. American cities. I had no idea about this. So we'll just breeze through this real quick, Robby. The article says, where you live can play a bigger role in your stress levels than you might think. A recent study by Wallet Hub ranked 182 U.S. cities based on 39 indicators of stress, from unemployment, foreclosure rates, divorce, violent crime, and average weekly work hours. The study compared work stress, financial stress, family stress, and health and safety stress to produce an overall score for each city. The highest ranking, most stressed cities share many of the same characteristics: economic hardship, high crime, and strained family structures. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the least stressed cities tend to have stronger economies, lower crime rates, and better access to community resources. That's a no duh.
Yeah.
So here's the list of the cities. I'm only going to go over the top five. Top five most stressed cities. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis ranks first in the nation for health and safety stress, fueled by one of the highest violent crime rates in the U.S. I talked about this with Steve Gill, actually. Memphis, Tennessee in particular has double the per capita rate of violent crime than Washington, D.C.
Oh, it's a
Washington,
slum.
D.C. Well, Washington, D.C. was 1,005. Memphis was like 2,000 and change, like more than double Washington, D.C.'s violent crime rate per capita. The city also lands in the top 10 for both financial stress. It's number 8. Comes in 9th in family stress, indicating that residents are often contending with economic strain and unstable home environments simultaneously. Number 4, Gulfport, Missouri, or Mississippi, rather. Sorry, I got distracted by the image. Gulfport, Mississippi. The Mississippi Gulf Coast city has the highest family stress score in the nation, thanks to a high divorce rate and large share of single-parent households. Gulfport also ranks 9th for financial stress, with housing costs and limited job opportunities weighing on residents, and 13th for health and safety. Then over here, Baltimore, Maryland. In Baltimore, nearly 40% of median household income goes towards rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, the 3rd highest rent burden in the country. The city has the 7th highest rate of underwater mortgages and one of the highest violent crime rates in the nation. It also experienced the 6th most mass shootings between March of 2020, so that's when COVID set in, and to March of this year, compounding community safety concerns. Here's one that surprised me. Cleveland, Ohio came in number 2. Cleveland struggles with deep economic challenges, including the 2nd highest foreclosure rate and a median household income under 43,000. That's a household, 43,000. When adjusted for cost of living, one of the lowest in the country. The city also has the highest divorce rate in the US at over 41% and ranks 2nd in health and safety stress, with high rates of poor health, inadequate sleep, and high violent crime. And coming in first as the most stressed out city is Detroit, Michigan. Detroit tops the list as America's most stressed city. It has the nation's highest unemployment rate at 11.4% and the highest poverty rate at 31.5%. That's staggering. Residents have the lowest median household income adjusted for cost of living, coming in at just over $38,000, and a median credit score of 624, considered bad by most lenders. Detroit also ranked 2nd for family stress and 4th for health and safety stress. And of course, that's driven by high violent crime rates. So, Robby, take it away. What are your thoughts on these top 5 cities? Memphis, Gulfport, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Detroit.
Well, Baltimore, it's just a basket case. As far as Cleveland and Detroit, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I used to go to Mississippi all the time. Back home, it's only like a 4-hour drive from where I used to live.
Where you're from?
Globalization destroyed those cities. So all those jobs, because they were all
what happened though.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Cleveland, Ohio was a major manufacturing hub. So is Detroit. Those jobs no longer exist, and so you have economic collapse. And Manila, I mean, people don't like to say this, but it's true. If men get depressed, a lot of times what they'll do is that they'll hole up, they'll make a cave. If they can't find one, they'll make one in a bottle or something else. Women want to feel secure. They want to be with a man who's able to provide for them. Sure. If you ain't got a job, then what happens? More often than not, the family's going to fall apart. I mean, that's what's happening. And so as those jobs went away, as people moved away, the cities, you're saying right now, so is Ted in New York. You raise the tax rates because you have to, you got to pay your bill somehow. And so it just creates more and more and more pressure. And next thing you know, you just have, Detroit's lost a quarter of its population, maybe more. Gulfport, Mississippi, when Hurricane Katrina went through, it wrecked the oil. No, it wrecked the oil wells. They used to have these big old floating casinos.
I didn't know where this was, but now I understand. Now I know where
Mississippi just has this little 80-mile coast, or the state would be completely landlocked. Well, when Katrina went through, it wrecked all those casinos. The gambling industry went away because the insurance companies wouldn't pay to have them redone. It's the Gulf Coast. Imagine that. We have hurricanes down there, and it's the economic hollowing out of America. That's what this is. And you can lay this squarely on Bill Clinton and NAFTA. That's what started it. And then Trump, he's not helping anybody. Keep in mind, these are the people who elected Trump to bring these jobs back. They're desperate. That's why you vote for an orange buffoon who is on TV, because no one else is. He at least said the right thing, but he's not going to fix anything either. Instead, he's making more debt. That's going to make things even worse. That's what this is.
I haven't been to Detroit in probably 8 years or so. And at the time, it was starting to see like a recovery. And I'd always feared Detroit. The first time I went there was like 11 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. And it was pretty rough, and I was scared, and but whatever, everything I'd heard. But I was a journalist, I was single at the time, and I wasn't a mom, so off to Detroit I go, and exploring the city in between doing my job. I saw all of these big buildings, and I'm thinking, this is Motor City. Like, why does it
Yeah.
look like this? And everything was shuttered. You could
Yeah.
buy whole city blocks. I'm not kidding you. You can buy a whole, a whole street in a subdivision. You could buy for probably $10,000. All the
Yeah.
houses on it. You just had to pay the back taxes on it and bring the buildings up to code. That the homes. Um, and I was like, man, I wish I had the money because I would buy here and just develop it. But, obviously, it was a pipe dream. I'm a poor journalist. But I thought, man, this town, it's a great town. There's one of the best restaurants I'd ever been to in America in downtown Detroit. And I thought, what a waste. Like, this is a like classic Americana, right? Like, this is
Sure.
Motor City. And it was so sad to see it look like that. And then it started hitting a recovery, I think in the mid 2010s, like up to maybe 2020, but it's reverting back to what it was apparently. But the problem now in Detroit is that the conditions of the city are reverting, it seems like, but the short boom time that they had in their real estate and housing sector, the prices are remaining stubbornly high. That is another bubble waiting to crash, waiting to explode.
Well, it's that.
And
Why would you want to live in a war zone? I
I
mean,
know, and
seriously.
that's the thing. That's the thing. I know a lot of people from Detroit because they work out here in DC, um, and some of my closest friends are from Detroit.
Yeah.
But when you go there, it's a devastated American city. Of course, like all of these cities considered like high stress is because the first and foremost is they are bust cities. They're all busted. Like there's no economy there, there's no jobs, so of course you're going to have high divorce rates. Of course you're going to have
Yeah.
broken families and drinking and all of that stuff because it all boils down to economics.
Sure.
And that's the source. Most people, Robby, you know this, most people who get divorced, they cite money, finances as the main driver as to why they're getting divorced. And if you go and look at these cities, like which city was it that I just read that had the highest, was it Cleveland that had the
Yeah.
highest, highest divorce rate in all of America. So you don't want to be a married couple in Cleveland is basically the takeaway.
Well,
But
well,
it's
what job are you going to
shocking.
get? I mean, seriously, what are you going to do? The factory jobs are gone. You see, I mean, this is one of the things I wish that Trump would do, and this is one of the things I wish that the American
Consumer
people would
economy,
rise up.
Robby.
But it,
70% of our economy is consumerism.
but it doesn't work if you don't have the income to consume with.
I know.
That's
That's why I was thinking, like, how long can you keep this up?
the answer is you can't. I mean, it is insane. And the problem is that what we are doing to our country, it's all self-inflicted, and we have the power to fix it. We can solve this. It would require Congress to do its job and actually start passing laws. Crazy that Congress can do that. No, besides getting together once a year for omnibus or sending Israel a big old hunking aid package, they could pass laws codifying the Trump tariffs, and you could bring back the factories. Like, for example,
Yeah,
brake
you force
pads.
them back. It'll take a
Yeah,
couple years, but you can force them back.
yeah, but the advantages of with a law versus an executive order, presidents come and go every 4 years.
That's
A
right.
law stays there until it gets repealed. Why is it that we outsourced all of our manufacturing from Detroit, for example, making brake pads, to Montreal, Canada? We could bring those jobs back here. Listen, I like Canadians. They're just to the north of me. I have no problem with Canadians, but they don't get to rob my family because it's cheaper for our oligarchs here. No, you take care of your home folks first. If we had a government that actually put Americans first, that was Trump's promise. I
Right.
will put you first. We could solve this. We're not Rome yet. We're well on our way, but we
Yeah.
can fix this if the American people rise up, right, left, center, it does not matter, and say, you are going to freaking listen to me or we will burn everything down. I don't care that you're rich. I don't care that you have Nancy Pelosi's stock picker. I do not care, but I do care about being able to pay my bills. If Washington continues ignoring this, mark my words, Manila, this country is going to explode. And when
Yeah.
it
So
happens, it's going to be bad.
would you say that the list of the most stressed out cities, would you say this last story is directly tied to the first story about the national debt?
Of course. Because, I mean, again, how does a nation generate wealth? I'm not talking about money. Money and wealth are two different things. How does a nation create wealth? By making things and then selling those things. That's how nations
Yeah.
create wealth. We don't do that anymore. We have a banking-based economy that's propped up by debt. That's the
It's fake
problem.
money. It's fiat money.
Yes, of course. That's the whole issue. That's why the price of eggs was like $8 or $9 earlier this year.
Yeah.
That's why gas is over $3.30 a gallon. That's why you can't buy a fucking house. There's no wages. Why aren't there wages? Because there's no jobs. And what few jobs that there are, we're importing every swinging dick from 200 other countries to come here and competing for those jobs, driving wages down. So that way the oligarchs get even freaking richer. This is the issue. This is the problem. And that's not a racist thing to say. It's not a xenophobic thing to say. That's not a Nazi thing to say. It is the freaking truth. And if you don't want to hear it, sucks to be you, but that is the truth. And the American people have the power to fix this if they would just pull their collective thumbs out of their butts and do something.
Yeah. I don't see Trump as the guy that's going to do this, even though
Trump.
the campaign slogan is great. But you know,
Trump is playing games. If listen,
this is
the way that you do this, presidents are not kings. Trump is a masterful salesman, but he's senile. He's just as senile as Joe Biden was at best. At worst, I think he's just a con man. Personally, that's what I think he is. He's an egotistical con man who only cares about getting rich.
He's a salesman,
Yeah,
for sure.
So what we need is someone who will actually listen to the people before this thing does explode because it's well on its way, and actually press Congress. Go on the record, Mr. Congressman. Go on the record, Miss Congressman. Here is the law I want you to pass. Apple Computer, you are incorporated in the United States. You are going to bring every one of your factories back here from China, and you're going to hire Americans, not H-1B visa holders. You're going to hire Americans. And if you don't, I am going to raise your tariffs 200%. And then I'm going to encourage banks to start investing in new companies that are going to compete against you. I will kill you. I will eviscerate you. I will cut your guts out, put them in a bowl, and I will make you eat them. That is the message.
But Robby, that's why all those tech bigwigs were donating to the Trump campaign when it became clear that he was going to win. And then they were all invited to his inauguration. So
of course,
those tech guys with the H-1Bs, I don't see a shift in that. And as far as like actual manufacturing, Trump has the power to make the big three bring back all production to the US and make the Rust Belt, unrust the Rust Belt.
But he doesn't. Here's why.
But he doesn't.
But it's because all you got to do is outwait him. He's going to be president for 3.5 more years. So what you would do if you're GM or Ford, you just eat those losses, let your shareholders cover the shorts, okay? You just wait till the next president comes. That's why you go through Congress and pass a law. That's what this is going to take. Listen,
Congress really needs to step up.
No, I am a right-wing Christian. I'm a right-wing Christian nationalist. Some people call me a fundamentalist, a fanatic, whatever. If I lived in New York, I would have voted for Mondani. I would have.
Yeah.
I would have. Because he's at least talking about the people of New York.
Right.
Think
Focus
about that
on
for a
your
second.
damn place.
You go to the dance of the person that invited you, as Ted likes to say. That's true. And that's the fundamental disconnect. NATO can go to hell. Israel can go to hell. Yeah. Shut down all 800 military bases.
Why are we spending? I think the U.S., the bare minimum for NATO, by the way, is a 2% of your GDP. GDP. by the way, 2% of your GDP. Our GDP, we don't only give them 2%. We are typically somewhere between 4 and 6% of our GDP that we're footing the bill for all of NATO. So
Yeah,
that right there, to the question I had earlier from Rumble, from, was it Alpine that asked that question?
yeah, Alpine, yep,
Yeah, about
about
bricks.
bricks.
Is that's part of the problem, is NATO being the supposed defensive alliance, but the US is footing the bill for everybody's defense.
Yep.
Everybody, we're basically buying security guards for all the different countries, because the vast majority of the countries in NATO do not pay their minimum share to be a member in that country club. And if you just think 5% of US GDP that we give to NATO, think of how much money that is. I don't even know what today's dollars are of America's GDP, because it keeps shifting quarter to quarter. But I mean, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, right, is our GDP. And we're giving, on average, 5% away to mostly European countries. We're giving it to them.
Yeah, and
So they can feel protected.
And it's money that we borrowed to do it,
Which is even worse. We're using a credit card to buy security for France. We're using our credit card to buy security for Latvia.
Yeah.
Who are just going to drink it away, by the way.
Yeah,
so there's crazy. That. So there you are. There's your Thirsty Thursday. Alcohol, all that stuff, all tied to the economy. I think everything boils down to finances. If you're in economic boom times, people are happier. Divorces don't happen. People don't die.
They have babies.
They have babies, and not like we've been on a steady decline ever since. And so, if you look at every measure of a healthy country, the U.S. ain't there. And I don't know who's gonna steer that ship, but it ain't happening now, and it hasn't been for a long time. So I don't know, Robby, but that's it. I hope everybody has a happy Thursday.
Yeah. Don't get drunk.
Don't get drunk. Seriously, go drink a green smoothie. That's coming from your California girl stuck out here on the East Coast. Go do some yoga. Do some deep breathing.
Go to church. Right? Touch grass.
Touch grass, that's for sure. Do yoga on the grass. Go to church outside. And seriously, that's my way to celebrate Thursday now, and like healthy habits, and no more Thirsty Thursday for this girl. That's long gone, because all the health negative impacts greatly outweigh you having a fun one night.
Do you have any predictions before we go? Do you have any predictions for the Putin-Trump meeting tomorrow?
Well, okay, so there's a 5-hour time difference. Is it 5? Or is it on Pacific time? Are they on Pacific time?
Alaska has its own time zone, I think. I don't know.
It does? I've literally never looked up Alaska time. So I don't know. I know California is 3 hours different from DC. So I think, because Hawaii has its own time zone too.
Yeah, it's out in the middle of the Pacific. Alaska might be Pacific. I don't know.
Might be 5 hours different from DC, I think. So by the time we are on air, they're not meeting yet.
Yeah, but do you have any predictions about what's going to come of it?
A big old fat nothing burger.
I think you're right. I think Putin is going to say, Mr. Trump, I'm holding all the cards. I'm holding all the cards.
I told you in 2022 what I needed. You willing to play? No? Okay, stand up and leave. Like that's it.
Monday's gonna be a fun show.
That'll be an interesting. Yeah, Trump is right now got all the bluster. Remember, he had the FaceTime yesterday with Zelensky and the Europeans. From what I understand, they just blew all kinds of sweet nothings into his ear. And this morning, Trump is already talking about how the Euros are going to give $500,000 each or something, or billion. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But he's like,
I sent a screenshot of the janitor's his little tweet. The janitor.
Yeah. Zelensky's collecting money now from his European allies, and Trump, I don't know. I don't know who to believe. All I know is, and we say this over and over on this show, Trump, I don't think has any true loyalty or any particular moral compass that
No.
is guiding him on this. I think he's transactional and just wants to make a deal. What that deal looks like, I don't know. A deal. He just wants to say, I walked away with a deal. And Vladimir Putin holds all the cards. They have, this past week, Russia has been crushing it on the battlefield. And I think Putin is going to go in there saying the exact same thing he's been saying for 3 years since 2022 and gave us that 8-hour history lesson about, like the Tsar of Russia and 700 years ago and what. So I think, honestly,
Sure.
I think that's how it's going to go. I think Putin's going to show up to the thing in Anchorage, give a 700-year history lesson
I don't think
like
so.
he did to Tucker Carlson.
I don't think so because he understands Tucker
And then
Carlson's is smart and Trump is autistic. So and no, to your point.
autistic people are often very smart. I don't think
Well,
that's the issue. I think
well,
Trump
well,
has
but
ADD.
the problem is Trump doesn't have an attention span. So that's what I'm saying. Is that the
It's
dude's
the ADD
autistic,
thing,
he
yeah.
doesn't really play well with each other. So I think what Putin's going to do, he's going to go there for the ledger with a bunch of numbers. Okay, so Mr. President, let's just compare things. You're $37 trillion in debt. I have almost no debt. Your fiat, my money is based off of commodities that people actually need. I am killing Ukrainians at a rate of 7-1. Now, my question to you, Mr. Trump, because I'm willing to drag this thing out and let you just keep running up your nation's credit card because I'm not at war with Ukraine. I'm at war with you.
Right.
Are you willing to crash your nation's economy that much faster and go down in history as the president that saw the American Republic die? Or are you going to pass it on to J.D. Vance and his mascara artist? I think that's what this is.
Are you going to continue the Biden campaign, or are you ready to end the bloodshed? And I think you're right. In all seriousness, I think that's what it's going to be. But bottom line, he's going to come in with the same thing, the same talking points that he said in 2022, because unlike other Western leaders, Vladimir Putin is a serious dude, and he said what he meant and meant what he said in 2022. Nothing has changed since then, Robby. Literally nothing, no demand has ever changed since 2022. So I don't understand why Western leaders can't put their heads around that, and why they can't just be like, oh, well, this is unique. Here's a guy that literally said what he wanted and wants what he said.
It's because
Wow.
they still think that they're important, and they don't realize that they're vassals. That's what this is. They think that they're actually
know.
No.
You don't think they know that? You think they're unaware that they're vassals?
I think that they're completely delusional. Honestly, yeah.
No, I think they know. They know.
No, they don't.
I think most of them know that they're U.S. bitches.
Listen, I mean, Macron is married to a dude that poached him whenever he was whenever he was
definitely
a student.
Diddled him when he was a minor.
And so now this dude's talking about last year. You remember you said I'm going to send the French army there, and Lavrov said if you do, you'll never leave. So I mean, you have these old powers, these old nations. They look around and they see these old buildings, kind of Detroit. How you just talking about Detroit of what once was, of what used to be, and so they're walking in the shadows of the men who came before them. And I said the word deliberately, men, because people who's running these countries now are either they're dykes or effeminate little boys, and they're looking at the trappings of an empire that once existed and say, I can still do that. And the answer is no, you can't.
No, you can't.
But they're deluded.
Well, that's like the funny saying about what's the most dangerous thinking, Robby? Is old men thinking they're young men.
Yep.
And that's exactly what this is. So I don't know. I don't know who the hell is prepping Donald Trump for the meeting tomorrow, but whoever it is, get them the hell out of there. They are bad and giving him fake news, fake information, because his tweets show. It's
Manila,
wrong.
Trump's already told us who he talks to. He talks to Marco Rubio, Sean Hannity, and Mark Levin. He's told us who he talks to. Those are his foreign policy guys. That's who he
Good
talks to.
grief. Oh my God.
And sometimes he'll talk to Bill O'Reilly. So
We're
he's talking.
doomed.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If
And
you're
on that
talking to
good
Mark Levin and whatever and
yeah,
Hannity
and Hannity,
for your foreign policy,
he
that's
talks to
that
Hannity.
shit crazy.
Donald Trump came out and said he talks to those men every single week. And if you think he's not talking to them now, you're out to lunch. This is wild.
He needs to be talking to Tulsi Gabbard and Tucker Carlson to give him a dose of reality, because if he goes in being quote armed with the knowledge that Sean Hannity is providing him or Mark Levin is providing him with in regards to foreign policy, he is going in with a blank deck. He's got nothing coming to the table, and Vladimir Putin is gonna go in there stoic as he is and just lay the cards out and be like, bro, all or nothing, buddy. I'm all in. And he's going to push it in, and Trump's going to realize he ain't got a hand. Only then. And then he keeps saying, he keeps calling this Ukraine war is the Biden war. It's not a Trump war. It would have never happened under Trump.
Trump's the one that started arming
war.
Trump started arming Ukraine in his first term. Trump owns this. And so people need to realize that this guy he'll tell you so many lies.
He's a salesman. He's a salesman.
Well, the problem is he sucks at selling. He's a BS artist.
He's a salesman. He's so, it apparently worked. So we'll see. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's obviously a big news day for us tomorrow. There's not going to be much to report when we're on air, and Ted should be back. Yeah. Nothing is going to happen by then because we're on at 10. It'll be like 5 a.m, I think, in Anchorage, I think. So anyway, it's going to be way too early before the meeting. There's not going to be much to talk about there. So during the show, it'll be more of a weird, fun Friday conversation.
Ted wants to talk about his fun Montana excursion.
We'll do that. I want to know what he saw, what he witnessed. And like I said, I encourage Ted to write a Wall Street Journal. Wow, what word is that? Wall Street Journal article about what he saw in Kalispell and across the other parts of Montana that he went to, because it too is in its own economic depression in its own way.
Yeah, we're like Detroit, but we don't have as many buildings.
Yeah. So we'll talk to Ted about that. So tomorrow will be more of a fun Friday talk. Monday will be when we know the nuts and bolts of what all went down in Anchorage. So, fun Friday tomorrow. Weird topics. Weird ass topics.
Oh, do you want an ad before we go?
Oh, yes, we should do that.
Yeah,
word from the sponsor.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it. This make life easier. So let's see here. Who's going to pay us the most?
Go ahead and post it up.
I have a buffet here. All right, here we go. Hold on. Let's do
Pick a good one.
Oh yeah, I got you. I'm your Huckleberry.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Make sure to download the Rumble app. Once you download it, search for my channel and follow the channel directly on the app. This will make sure you get a notification every time we go live. Click the link in the description or pinned live chat to download the Rumble app on your phone. It's free. By the way, use the Rumble app. It's freaking awesome. If you prefer to watch us on the big screen, it's also available for Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Roku, LG, and Samsung Smart TVs, as well as Xbox. All you need to do is search for Rumble. Full disclosure, I have it on my TV. I have it on my phone. I use Rumble every day.
I have it too. I have it on all my TVs. I have it on all my TVs, on the Fire Stick, and on my phone. And are we supposed to get a QR code that appears, Robby, on the screen? Because it didn't appear.
It won't appear on your end because I'm on studio. So I was looking at it. The nice QR code just popped up right up there over my face. It was great.
Oh, there it is. Okay, no, I was just behind on the Rumble feed. Okay, there you are. Okay, so word from Rumble. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. I think Ted Rall will be back because I think he's at this point giving up on the airlines and hitchhiking his way back. back to New York City. But hopefully we'll be back tomorrow with Ted. And if not, we always got Robby.
Yep, I'm here.
Hot takes. Thanks, everybody. Have a good Thursday. Adios, amigos. Bye.
Bye, y'all.